Hey, friends, welcome back to the Lazy Budget Travel Tips podcast. I'm Genni Franklin, and today I'm joined by Michelle Johnson, an everyday traveler who's mastered the art of earning points across multiple programs and using them to take incredible trips. In this episode, we're breaking down how to build a flexible point strategy that actually works in real life. You're going to learn why diversifying your points gives you way more booking power, how to keep welcome bonuses rolling, and how far ahead you really need to plan if you're eyeing those hard to book hotels. If you've ever wondered whether you should stick to one program or spread things out, or you want to travel more without spending more, this episode is for you. Hey, Michelle, welcome. Thanks for being
Hi,
here.
Jen. Thanks for having me. I'm so
I'm
excited.
so excited to have you. So, why don't you start off and let us know how you got into points and miles?
Yes, so I got into points and miles about 2 to 3 years ago. And I actually had heard about it a few years before that through a different influencer, but she didn't really want to share about it. She was a home decor account and she would kind of like casually talk about her trips and say she got them for free, but she didn't really want to talk about like how she did everything. So I was
That
just over
makes me
here
so
struggling.
makes me laugh. So,
I know, literally, it's and I don't get it because, like, at least in the points and miles community, there's really not gatekeeping, so I don't know why she didn't want anybody to know how she did it,
but she wanted to
but it
talk
was
about it.
driving.
She wanted to say that she did
Yes,
it, but just not how.
yes.
Rude.
Look at me in Banff, and I'm not gonna tell you how I went there, you know? So, it was really frustrating, and I probably could have figured it out sooner if I did a little bit more Googling, but,
Mhm.
like, I kinda did a little bit of research, and I kind of just hit dead ends at that time because that was probably more like 5 or 6 years ago.
Mhm.
So I did that, couldn't find anything. And at this time, like, we're just barely traveling. My kids are little. It took us years to save to be able to go even on just one vacation to Florida. And we would drive the 22 hours
Oh my
from
gosh, I
Michigan.
was wow.
Yes. Yeah. A lot, right? Because we couldn't fly because flying is crazy
Yeah.
expensive for a family of four, or so I thought. So we literally took one vacation and I was just feeling like we had so much fun when we were in Florida and we loved it. But I was like doing the math and I'm like, we're only going to be able to do this like every 3 years. And I'm going to do this a few more times. And like my kids are going to be teenagers and they're going to be graduated and they're gone. And we've hardly done anything together as a family. And so I started to do some more digging. Instagram was getting bigger, Points and Miles was getting bigger. And I stumbled upon a reel on Instagram and it talked about how like you can stay at this hotel for free. And I was like, what? Are you serious? And I literally like it told how to do it and like what card to get. And like I was hooked. And the next morning I got the card and I started Points and Miles and I've never looked back. So it was just like it literally changed our lives, Points and Miles. And that's why I do what I do now because you'd be surprised how many people I meet every single day who have no idea about Points and Miles. So I want families to be able to travel the world just like we do.
I'm not surprised. I'm right there with you. I understand. I know that there's so many people who don't know.
No,
It's
they don't. And
crazy.
they think it's like their Costco card,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Like, oh, well, I get 5% back when I get gas at Costco. Like, that's points, right? And I'm like, wait, well, not really. I mean, it's better than nothing, but like, really, like, people have no idea that you can use them for flights and hotels and so many other things
Yeah.
too.
And I was on a flight to Denver with my husband, and we were sitting next to this really nice lady, but she's super talkative. Thank God I was the one sitting in the middle. And we were talking about travel and stuff. And I was telling her about the credit card points, and she did what a lot of people do. And she goes, "Oh, well, I love my Costco card." And I'm like, that's nice. you know? Oh,
I know. And even business travelers don't know. Like when we left Travel More Conference and we came back from New Orleans, the lady I was sitting next to, she was loved to talk to, and she was telling me how her boss was up front in first class. They were flying to Chicago. And he was in the lounge and he was like rubbing it in her face that he got to go to the lounge and she didn't. And I was like, "Why don't you go to a lounge?" And she's like, "Oh, well, like, I don't have any status with United." And I'm like, "You don't need status with United. Let me help you." So literally for 2 hours, we talked nothing but points and miles because I was like, I bet you can go to even better lounges than, like, he goes to. We're gonna get you to the front of the plane and joke's on him, you know? So,
Love
like,
it.
she goes to Chicago probably, like, 5 or 6 times a year for business, and she had no idea that there were credit cards she could get that would instantly give her lounge access. So, there really is, like, this whole world of people that have no idea that points exist.
Yeah. I love that you basically were like, "We are gonna make it so that you can make him feel bad," you know? Like,
Yeah.
I love it.
I was, like, shocked. I was like, I bet he probably doesn't really know either. I mean, he probably just only flies United
Mhm,
and, like, he thinks he's cool because 'cause he's got United status, and it's like, there's way easier ways to, like,
mhm.
get status than doing it that way.
Amazing. Okay, so what was that first credit card that you got?
So that first credit card was the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is usually the go-to first card,
That
but
was my first travel rewards card. Not my first credit card, but it was my first
yeah.
travel rewards credit
Yes.
card.
Yes, I had my first credit card when I was 18, and I was one of those people that was always getting credit cards, so, like, because I love deals, so I had a Target Red card, so I could get 5% back at Target. I had my TJ Maxx cards. Every time I spent $200, I got a $10 reward, so I knew a lot about credit cards and I was using them to what I thought was their best ability. But I didn't realize that there was this whole other world out there of actual points and miles and big bonuses. I was always scared of cards with annual fees. All the cards I probably had like 6 or 7, but they were all no annual fee cards because I didn't understand at that time that the annual fee was 100% worth it when you see how much value you get if you know how to properly redeem your
Mhm.
points.
And also, even the benefits as well. If you use one benefit, you've basically offset that annual fee, and people definitely get intimidated, and it's a
Yep,
shame, but that's why we're here to explain it. So you talked about the card you started with, and you went to Chase.
yep,
How did it evolve from Chase and then to, diversifying across other programs?
yep. So we went really hard with Chase in the beginning. If I could go back, I probably would change that a little bit. I know that that's a lot of people's strategy is just go hard for Chase until you get denied. But I think that diversifying a little bit sooner actually can be really helpful. So we just went really hard. All we got were Chase cards. We had like all of the Inc. business cards. Well, then you start to get denied
Mhm,
and you've had all these inquiries on your account too. So we were really lucky that we did get approved for our Capital One Venture and Venture X that we have. But a lot of people get denied for those because they have too much velocity in the beginning.
mhm,
And then, you leave Chase and you keep getting denied for everywhere else too. So I think it's actually really good to kind of take turns, I guess, with the banks, get a Chase card and then get an Amex and then get a Capital One and then get a Citi. So I try to kind of spread it out a little bit so that there's not too much at once with each bank. And I think you're more likely to get approved that way too.
mm,
So we kind of have a little bit of everything, which I love because I never know exactly where I'm going to go for a trip. I have ideas and I kind of follow the deal. And sometimes the deal ends up being something different than you originally planned. So if you have points somewhere else, you literally can book a trip anywhere. It doesn't just have to be a Hyatt, as an example, if you have the Chase Ultimate Rewards.
mm. So, tell people what it means to have high velocity, and then also, how often do you apply for cards?
Yeah. So for us, I would say we're applying for cards every 60 to 90
Mhm,
days. Sometimes it was more, especially when it's those lower cards like a Chase Sapphire Preferred or, the Capital One Venture that's only $4,000. There was one time where it all came at once. Our car broke down and our cat got sick. And like we hit $4,000 in like less than a month. like it was a lot all at once. So we have had times where we do apply closer to 30 days, but that's really high velocity. And sometimes even 60 days can be high velocity. So I think depending on what your spend is every month, what expenses you have, it sometimes is better at the beginning to like get those bigger cards if you can that have that larger spend that you have to do so that you do space it out a little bit. I know some people like they hate waiting. They're like, "Well, I want to be able to get points like every single month." But, eventually you are going to get denied if you're trying to get cards every month, even if you have a play or two. Like my husband and I have both been denied for cards in the last year just because, we are getting like 6, 7 cards a year
Mm.
each.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show that everyone's strategy can be different. There is no one way or one size fits all. Like for me and my husband, we're totally different. We only get a
You
couple
are.
of cards every year. Has
Yep.
been sometimes where we do get a card like every 60 to 90 days, but we haven't done that in a while. And that's a combination of, we're strategic about when we will get cards because of when we're gonna have bigger expenses like car insurance and stuff, and we're normally not big spenders otherwise. So we have to be strategic about when we're gonna apply for a card, but then we also eventually, after applying for cards, kept the ones that were gonna give us good multipliers when we don't have a minimum spend to work on and when we're not gonna be hitting a welcome bonus, so that those times that we're not working on a sign up bonus, we can still earn a shit ton of points in between. So you just gotta figure out what works for you, you know?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and I think you're right. Having those cards that have those good multipliers are really important. Like maybe the Amex Personal Gold for the 4x on groceries and dining,
Mhm.
or, the Chase Inks for the office supply stores with 5x. So I feel like 100%, like, especially with everything that's been going on with Chase and the changes. Like, even just yesterday, I went and got a gift card from Staples. It was a $200 gift card so that I could get those 1,000 points from Chase. Like, I'm working on 2 different American Express welcome offers, and normally I would have just got the gift card, but I know that I want my Chase points. So I'm strategic. I'm like, "I'm gonna drive a little bit farther. I'm gonna go get my gift card there because I really want that 5x."
Mhm.
So you do, like, once you kind of know where the value is, you know when to use those cards, and I just keep them in my Apple Wallet, so I don't have to have them on my person.
Mhm.
I can just spontaneously be like, "Oh, yep, today I wanna use my personal gold." Well, everything's in the Apple Wallet, so you don't have to worry about forgetting to have the card with you.
Yeah, yeah. So, how do you decide which card you're gonna get next? Like, what kind of goes through your mind when you're deciding on the next card?
Yeah, so I'll go kind of back and forth, right? Like if I've just done Capital One, maybe I'll do American Express. I try to also space out my annual fees.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to have a high annual fee card, my next card is hopefully maybe going to be like no annual fee for the first year, and then I can cancel it at the second year, or like the $95 annual fee card. So I'll try to kind of space that out because we don't have a big budget for annual fees. I know a lot of people love, like, they go hard for Amex and they've got, 5 Amex Platinums. And I'm like, we have 1 Amex Platinum and I probably won't be able to keep it after the first year because that's like a big part of my travel budget. And we take annual fees out of the travel budget. So obviously, if you take all your travel budget to get Amex Platinums, you literally have no money to go there.
Yeah.
So I try to kind of like space that out. And then I always have a backup plan. So, as an example, a few weeks ago, I did apply for the Chase Ink Cash and was denied. I wasn't surprised because I had 3 business cards open with them. And that's kind of the data point right now is that if you have 3, you're more than likely going to be denied. So then my backup plan was the US Bank Triple Cash, which is also a business card and it's no annual fee, which I loved. I got denied for that as well. So I was not doing well. I was really surprised that I got denied for the triple cash card, but I've heard that if you don't have a checking account with US Bank, you are more likely to be denied. So then I kind of sat on it for a few days and I was like, I don't know what to do. So I checked my American Express offers and I had an offer in there for the 75,000 points for the Blue Business Plus. So usually with that, it's 15,000 points, which is not great. So the 75,000 is really hard to get. It's usually just a targeted offer. And I was shocked that I had it in my account. So I went ahead and did that so that I didn't have to have another hard pull on my account. And that's what I'm working on right now. So sometimes you even have to go to plan C. But I try to have a few options in mind, knowing that I might get denied.
Mhm.
And that used to bother me in the beginning. But once you do this longer, especially if you are opening them more often, right? Like you are going to get denials. So that's just a part of the game, you
I
know?
know, I tell people, "It's really not the end of the world if you get denied, like, it's
Yep,
fine, relax, you're okay."
yep. I know people get really worried, like it means something really bad, and I think before Points and Miles, I would have agreed to
Mhm.
like, I would have been saying like, "What? Like, I didn't get approved for the Target card? Like, what's
"Forget
wrong?
it,
Like,
I'm
what did
not
I
getting
do?"
any other cards, I'm done, or
Yes,
credit cards for the
this
rest."
this is the end, you know? But, like, you do after a denial, like, my husband was denied multiple times in 2024 for more Chase Ink cards, and then he opened a business checking account, and then he was approved back to back for 2 inks. So, it isn't a forever no when you get a denial, it's just a not right
Yeah,
now.
there you go, I love that, and then do you ever call recon to try and get reconsidered?
Yes, so every time we've done recon, we've still been denied. So
Really?
it doesn't work for us. But that was when Chase was like really like, we're done giving you people business cards, you know?
Mm.
So I think we maybe had bad timing with all of that. And then this last time with the Chasing Cash that I applied for a few weeks ago, I closed an IHG business card I had, and then I thought about then calling and saying, "Hey, I closed this. Can you reconsider me?" But I was already working on that new Amex
Mm.
card, and I just didn't wanna have too much going at once, and then I felt, like, flustered to have to finish them. So I think probably in the new year, I'll try to reapply for it again, even if it's at the 75,000 points. You know, I love elevated offers, but I'm also not going to wait around for them if I want a card. So I'll
100%.
probably try again and see if I get approved then.
No, I love that. In the Facebook group, people are like, "Oh, should I just wait for an elevated offer because, I missed this offer because we weren't ready, and I just feel like I should wait because I really wanna get the points," and I'm like, "But then you're wasting spend now by not
Yep.
working on a bonus. What if when there's an elevated offer, which you have no idea when that's gonna happen, maybe you're not ready then because you already had all this." I was like, "Sorry, but that's not a good strategy to wait."
No, it's and it may never come back and it may be different. Like it's the same with the Capital One Venture X right now that has the Elevate offer of 100,000 points, but it's a 10K spend.
Mhm.
Like it's normally 4K spend for 75,000
But
points.
it's 10K in
So
6 months, right?
it is. So I think that's a great card for people that don't wanna open cards often,
Mhm.
especially if you're on, like, the lower spend, like, let's say you only spend, like, $2,000 a month on all of your bills. I think that's a great card because literally it's gonna take you 5 months to finish it,
Mhm.
and if you don't wanna open cards every 60 to 90 days, it's a great
I
option.
mean, that would have been perfect for me, but I had just gotten the City Strata. Brandon already has a Venture X. My mom has a Venture, but she's not gonna be able to spend 10K in 6 months just by herself, and
Yep.
I was like, "We" this is the thing, is that, like, sometimes I'm like, "Oh, if I just would have waited instead of applying for the City Strata," but also, how the hell was I supposed to know that the Capital One Venture X was gonna come out with that sign-up bonus? And then if I would have waited, like, you can't do that to yourself and think, "Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that," because then you're never gonna do anything.
100%. Yeah, you'll never get a card, and then you'll have no points, and you still won't be able to travel.
Right, so
Yeah.
I tell people don't get that FOMO when, offers come, are out there, and don't do something that you're not prepared to do. Like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, Michelle's crazy. She has all these cards.
Yes. Crazy
But
person.
guess what? You know what? There's a lot of people like Michelle, and this episode would probably help them. And if that's not you, that's okay. We'll have other episodes that will help you, but this is definitely an important strategy. And I think sounds like it's been working for you and your family and the spend, and the lifestyle that you guys have.
And I think, it would maybe be different if we didn't have kids because I plug everything into a spreadsheet, what I spend, like where the points came from. And I was just looking at the other day because I was kind of curious. And in 2025, I spent 1,000,000 points. I think it was just under 1,000,000. And I mean, yes, we traveled a lot, right? Like we had like I think 3 or 4 really big trips this year. But with kids, it just does take more points and our expenses are lower. So if I didn't open cards often, it would take me quite a bit longer to earn those points and we probably would have to travel a little bit less.
Mhm.
So I think it just depends like what works for
What
you
your
and your
goals are.
family and your goals and your situation, like if you only want to take one trip a year and like that is so exciting for you, you don't need to open cards every 60 to 90 days. Like you said, get a few of those cards that have those really good multipliers and maximize those and that's all you need.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So, do whatever works for you. We're just giving you the information so that you can make a good decision on what suits you. So, what are you doing with all these points? Are there transfer partners or sweet spots with the Chase ecosystem and these other programs that you have points in or that you're looking forward to utilizing? What have you guys been doing?
So for us, we love the Chase Ultimate Rewards because they were the only transfer partner to Hyatt. Now we have Built as well, which I haven't really gotten into that. So I plan to do more with Built as time goes on, but 100% Chase is where it's at for us because Hyatt has the best value because of their fixed award chart versus the dynamic like Marriott, Hilton. So I love Hyatt. That is pretty much where we always stay. We have stayed at some IHG properties, some choice properties this year, but overall, Hyatt is really where it's at for us.
Mhm.
And then whenever I get Capital One, Miles, or Amex, I usually use all of those for flights.
Mhm.
So I'll transfer a lot of times to Flying Blue because they have the 25% discount for kids 11 and under.
Oh,
And that's on points too, whether points or cash. You get 25% off on kids 11 and under. So that makes the points price for kids even less.
nice.
So for us, usually it's when Air France and KLM devalued earlier. I think it was in 2024, they devalued their flights a little bit, but we usually can get anywhere from like 70 to 90,000 points each way for a family of four and economy. So for us, like, that's great.
Mhm.
Like, that's one welcome offer. So literally, like, if you get 2 cards, that's round trip flights for a family of 4 to Europe, as an example.
When you guys go to Europe, what's your cash budget for that? Like, how much do you guys usually spend?
So for flights, it kind of depends. I'm trying to cut that down in 2026 because there were a few flights that were a little high. With Air France and KLM, I love them because their points prices are lower, but especially on the way home, their taxes and fees can be really high.
Mhm.
So sometimes on the way home, it can be as much as $1,000. And granted, that's only 250 per person, which is great, but when you add it all up together, that's a lot of money.
Mhm.
And then on the way there, it's usually another 5, 600. So, you're at 1,500 to $2,000 round trip that you're still paying for taxes and fees. So I plan to try to fly a little bit more in 2026 to really cut down on the taxes and fees.
Mhm.
So that would be another tip that I would give families is really check out airline alliances and try to find those better flights. Like we've flown SAS through Flying Blue. They have cheaper taxes and fees, or maybe finding a Delta flight through Virgin Atlantic because Virgin Atlantic's taxes and fees can be really crazy too. So just trying to find that best deal with taxes and fees is really going to cut down on the cost. And then you can take that money and use that to do excursions and food and other things when you're on your trips.
Yeah, so what's your budget for a European trip for your family? Excursions
It
and
was
stuff.
usually it's $4,000 and under. I like to keep it closer to $2,000
Right.
total. And that just kind of depends on those flights, right?
Mhm.
So if I have those lower cost flights and taxes and fees, we easily can do a week in Europe for under $2,000 total. And that includes food and excursions and everything else.
Yeah.
So it's really doable. I mean, like I told you about our trip to Florida was $5,000 for 9 days, and we drove. It's crazy, but the rental car and the Airbnb was so expensive,
Mm.
right? But I had no idea that I could do it differently. So there's so many ways for families to be able to save money by using points and miles, and then really, like, a Europe trip is even cheaper than traveling domestically.
And you're probably staying at pretty nice hotels too, you're not, like,
Oh,
slumming it or
yes.
anything.
No, we love to stay in luxury, like, whenever we can. In a few weeks, we're staying at the Park Hyatt New York, and I
Oh.
love Park Hyatts, and it's really hard to find Park Hyatts that will let 4 stay in a room. And the Park Hyatt in New York City is letting us, I think, because my kids are still a little bit younger. So I was like, I gotta do it now because once they're teenagers, they're probably gonna make me get 2 rooms, and I'm not spending 45,000 points for each room a night.
Right.
So I'm like, I gotta do it while I can. But yeah, I love luxury. We do a lot of Hyatt Place stays as well, and those are great. But it's really fun to feel fancy and knowing that you literally paid $0 for it.
I know, it's the best to be able to do things that you otherwise could never afford because of
Yep.
points. So, you guys went to the Netherlands, stayed at some Hyatts. What Hyatts did you stay at?
In the Netherlands, we were at the Hyatt Regency in Amsterdam.
Mhm.
We did have to get 2 rooms there. I wouldn't stay there again with kids only because it's expensive. I think I paid for that one night for 2 rooms was almost 50,000 points.
Okay.
So that adds up really quick,
Mhm.
for families. So and then we stayed at the Hyatt Place Schiphol. I think that's
Mhm.
how you might say
Mhm.
it, but that's by the airport, and I loved it. Like, it was a really nice Hyatt place, and I think our rooms were 8,000 points each, so that was only 16,000 points a night.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty big difference between the Hyatt Regency, and granted, the Hyatt Regency is in downtown, but sometimes too, like, that's another great thing for families. If you don't mind public transportation or you're renting a car, staying a little bit outside of the city can save a lot in points too, especially in a place like Europe where you usually need to get 2 rooms.
And that also puts things into perspective if we're thinking back to what you said about driving a little further to get 1,000 Chase points with a $200 gift card, because you only need 8,000 points if you transfer those Chase points to Hyatt to stay at a Hyatt place.
100%. I think the cards that have flexible points are so important. I just had someone message me the other day that said they had a lot of United miles, and they're like, "I don't know what to do with them, like, the United, prices are so high," and I'm like, "Well, I would have never gotten straight up United miles in the first place," I just think, like, they're not flexible points, but they flew United, they got the United cards, and they kinda thought that they were doing the right thing by doing it that way, so I was explaining to her how important the flexible points are. Get a Chase card and transfer to Aeroplan and then get a United flight. That's gonna be better for you than booking straight with United. So, it's just learning over time. Like, at first, all of that can be overwhelming. So, I just say start slow, earn the flexible points, and then over time, you can start to learn some of those, like, intermediate and advanced principles with transfer partners and things like that. Because at first, it is a lot, but that's my biggest tip is don't get those United cards, or sometimes they can come in handy if you know what you're doing, but at the beginning, you want those flexible points that can be used for so many different things.
And I love what you were talking about earlier about diversifying and getting different cards from different banks because a lot of them have the same transfer partners. Like we were talking earlier before we started recording, I'm seeing a lot of flights to Japan through Flying Blue on different airlines. So, yeah, I've got points in Chase and I've got points in Capital One, I've got points in Citi, but guess what? They all have Flying Blue as a transfer partner. So, if I needed to put all those points into one loyalty program, I totally could.
Yep, you just transfer them all there and, yeah, put them together.
Hmm.
That's a great idea.
So, okay, let's talk more about like what else you guys have done or what you have coming up. I know you went to Norway, right?
We did, that was so fun.
I want to go to Norway so bad. It's definitely on the list. So tell us about where you were in Norway, what hotels you stayed at, what points you used.
So for Norway, we flew round trip on Flying Blue. We had transferred our Chase Ultimate Rewards for
Mhm.
that. I don't usually do that, but at that time I had a ton of Chase Ultimate Rewards, so I decided to use those for flights. So for the way there, we flew Detroit to Norway and we flew premium economy, which was really exciting because we have never done that before. And that was 122,500 miles for a family of four. And then on the way home, again, we flew Oslo to Detroit, and that was 70,000 miles in economy for a family of four. I've never gotten a transfer bonus. I've never been lucky enough to ever book anything during a transfer bonus. So that's just, and that was before they devalued. It would definitely be higher now. I think when the other time that we went to Europe, it was closer to like 87,000 points in economy. So it definitely has gone up. But I booked these flights a long time ago, like 13 months out when the calendar opened. So that was before there were any devaluations, but still, it's a great deal for families. You really don't need that many miles to go round trip to Europe.
Yeah, it's funny how you said that about transfer bonus. When we flew to the UK in Virgin Atlantic business class, well, they call it upper class, and it was on their premier upper class product. I finally was able to take advantage of a 40% transfer bonus from Chase to Virgin. It was amazing. But I used to joke all the time with people. I'd be like, "Yep, I'm not cool enough to plan my trips when there's a transfer bonus, and I'm also not gonna wait to plan my trip for
No,
a transfer bonus. That would be ridiculous for me. Maybe not for you, but I feel like it would be,
you know,
you know? Like, it's crazy."
100%. Yeah. Some people get really lucky. Like every single time they get a trip, there's a transfer bonus. And I don't know how it happens because it's never worked out for me.
I know.
So I don't know. Like I think I have like 120,000 Capital One miles, and there's a transfer bonus to British Airways right now. And I've thought about speculatively transferring my miles over there because I think I want to use those for British Airways in 2026. But I normally would never speculatively transfer. But I want a transfer bonus. I never get one. So I'm like, I've been waiting for this, but it's too early, right? Like the flights that I would want are not out yet because I would be looking too far out. So it's kind of like hit or miss. Should I do? I probably won't do it, but I'm like, I'm so sad. Like I really want
No, I
one.
understand, and I just know that this would happen to me, then it would turn out that British Airways wasn't the perfect thing, and then I'd be stuck with British Airways points and be
Yes.
like, "Oh, now I have to figure out how to use these." I mean, I'm in a situation now where I have some stuck in Flying Blue because of some stupid chase glitch where it said that my
Uh,
points didn't transfer, and instead of checking, I just retransferred the points and the points transferred twice. And once you
you
transfer,
know,
you can't transfer back.
yes. Yep.
And I didn't feel like arguing with Flying Blue and Chase while they point fingers at each other, and then I'm still stuck with the points. So I'm just gonna end up having to use them. Thankfully, I mean, they do expire, but thankfully, when we flew Aero Mexico through KLM, that
Love
pushed
that.
the expiration date.
And then in Norway for hotels, We only stayed in one hotel, and that was a choice hotel. It was called The Hub in Oslo.
Mhm.
The rest of our trip, we rented an RV and we went for 8 nights, 9 days in an RV through Western Norway.
What? I love
Yeah,
that.
yep, yes, it was so fun, but the hub in Oslo is an amazing hotel, and I feel like that's kind of an underrated program is Choice. So, I would say in the United States, I've never thought about Choice before, but there's a ton of Choice hotels in Scandinavia. So, if you plan to go to Scandinavia, it's probably a really good idea to be able to get some points that you could use for Choice hotels because they're really nice and they usually always have free breakfast for everybody. You
Mhm.
don't have to have any fancy status, and they're not that expensive either. I think we did have to get 2 rooms, but it was 15,000 points a night per room. And like I said, the breakfast was insane. Like, it was the biggest spread I've ever seen. It's not like a Hyatt Place breakfast where you get, like, some weird eggs and a few pieces of bacon and, like, some cereal, like, this was, like, fresh local bread, everything that you could ever imagine they had, and it was really cool. We loved it.
Yeah, I usually am just not about free breakfast. Like, I don't pick hotels for free breakfast. It's usually not worth it for just me and my husband, anyways, with whatever they
Yep.
offer. But I know it's a big thing for families, but you're right. Like, it's just going kind of downhill with some of the brands and stuff. So it's nice to hear that there are brands out there that still are doing like a legit free breakfast.
Yes, I'll have to send you some of the videos so you can see it. It's crazy, like, literally anything you can imagine. They had smoked salmon.
Mm.
I mean, really fancy things that you would never get at a free breakfast in the United
Yeah.
States, and if you did, maybe it would be kinda gross, but that's what I love about Choice is they're not trying to give things to the status-only people.
Hmm.
They want everybody to be able to enjoy it, and they're really nice hotels,
Yeah.
which I love. So for Scandinavia, 100% Choice would be the way to go.
How did you get the points for choice and how did you even find that hotel?
So I always start by Googling hotels. So I'll just be like Oslo, Norway hotels,
Hmm.
and I'll see what pops up. And I kind of go from there.
Hmm.
And I transferred my American Express points.
Nice.
But City has a really great transfer for choice.
Hmm.
That's like the best one for choice points is City.
Oh, it's a 1 to 2 ratio.
Yes.
It's typically 1 to 2 for many city cards or 1 to 1.4 for some non-premium cards. One.
But I'm pretty sure the City Strata Elite is the 1 to 2.
Yes, the City Strata Elite, the City Strata Premier, the Prestige, and AT&T Access More card members are a 1 to 2 ratio for choice. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's fun.
right? But if you have, like, the City Double Cash, the City Custom Cash, and some other cards, you could do 1 to 1.4, and with a lot of the transfer ratios out there is really 1 to 1 most of the time. 1 to 1.4 is great.
So, yeah, if I was going to Scandinavia, you definitely could use your American Express points, but I would get a city card if you know that you're gonna have, like, a choice hotel heavy trip,
Mhm.
because that's only 7,500 points a room.
Yeah.
Like, that's a crazy good deal, and these are really, really nice hotels.
Yeah.
Like, definitely a steal for what you're getting.
And I love too that you are so open to other brands besides the typical Marriott, Hilton,
Yes,
IHG. No hate, but there are other hotel brands out there. Even if you
100%.
don't have enough points, looking at the local hotel chains, you can get some really good cash rates depending on when you're traveling. Like, I do the same thing that you do. I start off with Googling hotels to see what's around because location is really important for us, so I like to
Yes.
look at that and then kind of work backwards from there.
Because sometimes the chain hotels are not in a good
No,
location.
many times.
No, a lot of times they're not. So, especially with kids, you want quick, easy to get where you're going. So sometimes you have to branch out a little bit. Like I said, I love Hyatt, but there's so much more out there besides Hyatt or focusing on the typical Hyatt. Like again, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith as an example. I know you love Mr. and Mrs. Smith too.
Mhm.
And we stayed at one in Copenhagen and we absolutely loved it. And like, normally everybody hates on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Their points prices are too high. And yes, a lot of times they are, but there are some hidden gems out there that are so good. And when we stayed in Copenhagen, we had a room that fit all 4 of us, and it was a penthouse suite, and we were the only room on that floor, and that was with
It's
points, and it was
amazing.
only 28,000 points for the night.
I know when people complain about how high the points are for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's because they're comparing them to other Hyatt brands, which is just stupid to
Yes.
do. Don't do that doesn't make any sense.
No.
You want to compare them to the other hotels in the area, like the Marriotts
Yep.
and the Hiltons and the IHGs, or even looking in the portal to see how many point other hotels are in the area. And I'm sorry, but 28,000 points is not that much. It's not.
No, it's great. I mean, especially for 4 people in 1 room. That's a great
The
deal.
same type of room with a Hilton or a Marriott would have been, like, over 100,000
Oh,
points a night, probably.
especially for the location, and that's what I love too is a lot of times, like, the Mr. and Mrs. Smiths are in really great locations, or they give you that boutique feel.
Mhm.
Like, especially for people that love Airbnbs and don't really like the big, kind of sterile feeling of a
Mhm.
hotel. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is amazing, especially in Europe.
Mhm.
Some of them only have, like, 6 or 7 rooms, some of them. Like, it's crazy, like, they're literally, like, these quaint little inns,
Mhm.
and you can book them on points. You would never think that you would be able to do that, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith gives you the ability to kind of feel like you're having that Airbnb stay without having to pay cash for it.
Yeah, and it just goes to show it doesn't matter what the style is that you're going for, you can find a way to use points in some way.
Yep, and I even saw that Marriott, I'm kind of interested, they have a newer brand that they've acquired, and it's more of this outdoor lifestyle brand. So they have the postcard cabins, which I think are really fun.
Yeah.
We've actually stayed in a postcard cabin pre-points and miles, so I think it's kind of fun that you can stay there on points, but I think that's kind of the new trend I'm seeing with a lot of hotel chains is they're seeing that people like the Airbnbs, they like the unique stays, and they're starting to acquire those brands and bringing them on underneath them. So I feel like as time goes on, we're going to have so many more options for those fun, unique stays, and we won't have to pay cash for them.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so what tips do you have for people who are planning a trip? Uh, what kind of advice do you have for them?
So for me, I know some people do it the opposite where they focus on flights first, but because we are a family of 4, we pretty much can always find something in economy. I don't know when we'll fly business because it's a lot of points for us, but I always start with hotels because that's the hardest for families because we like to be able to fit in 1 room if we can. So I usually start with that first. I try to find destinations that I know will have rooms that can fit 4. And then from there, I figure out what brands they are. Do I have points for that program? Would it be a good value? And I kind of take it from there. But usually I'll start with literally 7, 8 ideas and then by the end, I've narrowed it down to 1 or 2, and then that's usually what I'll go with. So it's not this, I wanna go here. It's where can we go and where am I going to get the best value for my points?
And it's nice because you have diversified, so you have a lot of options,
Yes.
only being stuck with one loyalty point program where you're just kinda like, "Okay, well, this is all I can do with it."
Yeah, I love the flexibility knowing that I can pretty much book almost anything that I want because I have at least 100,000 points, multiple different programs, and that's plenty to be able to get us either flights or hotels with that.
Mhm. And how far in advance do you usually plan your trips?
So usually I like to plan 12 to 13 months out. Now that I have a lot of points, I don't think that we necessarily would need to do it that way. But if you're first starting out with points and miles, I would think longer than that. I would think 18 months to 2 years out. Get some really good ideas of where you want to go so that you can take time to earn all those points. I think that's a big misconception that people don't realize. I had to figure this out the hard way too, that once you earn the points, they still have to post. And sometimes it can take 6 to 8 weeks for them to post, depending on when you earn them with the statement, how it closed. And that can be kind of tricky if you're cutting things really close. It can take you a good 6 to 9 months to earn all the points you need. You wait for them to post, and then it's nice to be able to book them right at a year out for your flights and your hotels. That takes you a good year and a half, 2 years to be able to do that when you first start. Once you get going and you have lots of points, you don't really need to do it that way. But I think that can help curb some of that disappointment in the beginning. I have people ask me now, they're like, "Oh, I wanna go to Mexico for spring break," and they don't have any points. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you might be able to do that, but it's going to take you at least 2, 3 months to earn all the points you need. Then it's like February. And then you have to wait for them to post. And now it's spring break. And waiting last minute like that, flights get higher, hotels sell out. I just think people don't always realize that it is kind of a long game at the beginning to get started with points.
Yeah, I agree. I think it can be done if you really do need to try and get a trip together, but it's not going to be to
Yep.
Mexico. You're going to have to be more flexible than saying, I need to go to Mexico. I don't have any points and it's in like a few months. It's like, well,
Yep.
you got to give up something. You got to either give up Mexico, you got to give up using points, you got to, you got to give up
Yes.
that you want to go to for spring break. One of those things, something's got to give if you want that to work.
I know. I always tell people, pick one thing. So, like, I have people ask me that all the time, those kind of like last minute trips. And I'm like, pick one, hotel or flights. But you're probably not going to get enough points in the next 4 months if you want to travel in 6 months from now. You got to pick something and then use that other thing as a points earning opportunity versus spending, you know?
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so before we get into wrapping up, some key takeaways from what we've discussed so far. Flexibility lets you pick the best deal instead of forcing one program. Planning ahead for high demand destinations avoids disappointment. And consistently earning bonuses keeps those points flowing year round. Any other takeaways that you can think of?
I think kind of just touching on what I said at the very end about how it's a marathon, not a sprint, because I think that's how we all get really, really excited in the beginning and we go so hard. And I think like just remembering that it's okay to slow down.
Hmm.
And if you know how to strategically use your points and get the best value for them, you still will be able to travel multiple times a year if you're strategic with your points. So don't feel like if you're not getting a new card every month, like you can't keep up, you're doing something wrong. It really is a marathon over a sprint.
So, you ready for a rapid fire round?
Let's do it.
Okay. What's one hotel program you think is underrated?
Their choice, 100%. I wish we could stay in more choice hotels because now that we've stayed in one, I'm totally hooked on them.
What's your favorite redemption you've ever made so far?
That's really tough. I really loved when we went to the Kimpton Sea Fire in the Cayman Islands. That was a five-star luxury resort. We've never stayed anywhere even remotely similar to something like that. I just couldn't believe that we could stay there. The room that we were in was over $2,000 a night to stay there in cash. And then, so we used IHG points. My husband and I each got the IHG business card. And then we also got the Barclay Aviator Red, which is an American Airlines card. And we both got that card, and we flew round trip on American Airlines from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is our home airport, to the Cayman Islands. And each way, it was only 8,000 miles per person each way. And the taxes and fees were $5.60 on the way there. And then I think it was maybe like $50, $60 a person on the way home. So for like free hotel, we did have an $85 a night resort fee. So that came out to be $400 plus our flights. So like out of pocket to be at a five-star luxury resort, we had spent for flights and hotel $800.
Insane. That's insanity.
Which is bonkers, like, it's so crazy. We were right on the ocean. Like, we had an oceanfront room because we have Platinum Elite status with IHG just by holding the credit card,
Mhm.
and so I emailed ahead of time, asked if we could have our room upgraded, and they did. So we had an oceanfront room with a big balcony, and we would sit there in the morning and watch the sunrise and be like, "How is this our life?" I'm a stay-at-home mom, like,
Mhm.
we don't really get to do things like this, you know? So it was really special for us.
What's the most surprising redemption win?
I have to say my Mr. and Mrs. Smith property, I think that really got me hooked on Mr. and Mrs. Smith because the location of the hotel that we stayed at in Copenhagen, it's called Hotel Ane, and it's right by Nyhaven in Copenhagen, which is where all of the beautiful, brightly colored businesses and houses are, like you see the pictures on Instagram. And to be right there, penthouse suite, balcony, no one else on our floor for only 28,000 points. I was like, wow, we've made it. Like, this is really cool. And I just still can't believe it that it was only 28,000 points for a penthouse suite. Like, you easily would think that would be 100,000 points. So I feel like that's a really fun kind of unicorn redemption that we had.
So if you could only earn points in one program for next year, which would you choose?
Chase, but it's not gonna happen. But if they don't like me right now, but 100% because like I said, I love Hyatt hotels.
Mhm.
I just think for families, it's such a good redemption. But if I couldn't have Chase, I think my next would be American
Mhm.
Express. They really are pretty easy to earn, and because they have so many transfer partners, you don't have to use them for flights. You know, you could use them for Hilton or Choice. You know, there's lots of options, so I think that would probably be my second choice.
Are you gonna look into Bilt because Bilt transfers to Hyatt and they've got those new credit card programs and now they have Rakuten?
Yes, so I already changed everything over on my Rakuten, so I do have that changed over to earn Bilt points. It's only 1 to 1 for the next 6 months. So after that, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I don't really use Rakuten very often. We just don't shop very much. If I do shop, it's like TJ Maxx and they're not on Rakuten. So we don't have a mortgage. So our house is paid off. So I don't have a mortgage to be able to earn built points. So I'm going to have to kind of think through that a little bit more if it
Mhm.
would be worth us getting a built credit
Yeah.
card. But because they transfer to Hyatt, I'm definitely interested in going to see if that would work well for us.
Okay.
What about you? Do you have the Bilt
I
card?
don't have the Bilt card. I'm in the same boat as you. I gotta look at it because there are other cards that I already had on my mind to get, but, we have a mortgage and I just need to see how that would work and what the lift is to earn the points, so we'll see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that.
I have to do a deep dive on Bilt so that people have the information because I think there's a lot of maybe, like, misconceptions out there about Bilt, so we'll have to see. Okay, one
Sure.
last question. Dream
Yeah.
hotel you still want to book on points?
I would love to go to the Conrad Bora Bora. I don't know if we will get to do anything like that anytime soon, but I would love to do that or Park Hyatt Maldives. I think that's a really great redemption, but the seaplane for a family of 4 is $2,000 just for the plane to get to the Maldives, and then the seaplane once you get there to the hotel is $2,000 round trip for a family of 4. So that is a dream for me. I would love to be able to do that, but it's a lot of money, even with points, so we would probably have to cut back on a few trips, but I would love to do the Maldives or Bora Bora. My kids they loved the Cayman Islands. They like that Caribbean feel, being from Michigan, we have cold, dark winters for a very long time, so they love those tropical vacations.
Okay. So, Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show. I think it was a really,
Yes,
really fun
thank
conversation, and I hope everyone learned. So, where can listeners find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, and my Instagram.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. So, since we recorded this episode, Michelle actually changed her Instagram handle. It is now Jet Set with Johnsons. So, if you want to find her on Instagram, check her out at Jet Set with Johnsons.
And I have lots of highlights. I put all of my trips in highlights. I break down all of the points and the cost. So it's really easy for you to replicate anything if you're stuck and don't know where to go. And I'm always in DMs as well. So I'd love to get to know you better.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode. Huge thank you to Michelle for sharing her flexible, real life approach to earning points, diversifying programs, and planning ahead for those dream redemptions. I hope this conversation reminded you that you don't need to follow anyone else's rules to make points and miles work. There's no right or wrong way to save money on travel, just the best way that fits your life. And you're allowed to make this easy, fun, and totally your own. So, if you want to keep learning simple strategies like the ones we talked about today, come join us in the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. It's where I share tips, answer questions, and help you travel more for less without the overwhelm. So just search Lazy Budget Travel Tips on Facebook and you'll find us. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.